The smell of rotting fish and motor oil had been my cologne for 23 years, but tonight it felt like perfume compared to the stench of betrayal hanging in my kitchen. I stood there at 2:47 a.m., holding Tessa's burner phone like it was a live grenade, reading text messages that made my stomach turn inside out. Can't wait to see you tomorrow, baby. Red's working late again. What a loser. Your husband is such a pathetic has-been. Good thing you have a real man now. Tell me again how he snores like a walrus. I'm losing it. My name is Eli Baker, but everyone calls me Red on account of my hair that's more rust than fire these days. 43 years old, marine engineer at Coastal Carolina Shipbuilding, married to Tessa for 15 years. Or at least I thought I was married. Turns out I've been playing house with a stranger who's been sharing our most intimate moments with her boss, Brady Lawes, like they were comedy sketches. The phone buzzed in my trembling hands. Another message. Red bought me flowers today for our anniversary. Cheap grocery store daisies. You should have seen his proud little face. Meanwhile, you gave me that diamond bracelet just because it was Tuesday. That's the difference between a boy and a man. I set the phone down carefully on the kitchen counter, my hands shaking with rage. Through our bedroom window, I could see the harbor lights twinkling like fallen stars on black water. This town built me, shaped me from scrap metal and salt air. I'd given it my sweat, my youth, my dreams of something bigger. And now my own wife was grinding my face into the dirt of it. The worst part wasn't even the cheating. It was the mockery. The casual cruelty of turning our private life into entertainment for her and Brady. Every embarrassing moment, every vulnerable confession, every time I'd tried to be romantic or thoughtful, it had all been material for their private joke show. I walked to the bathroom and stared at myself in the mirror. Same weathered face, same calloused hands, same guy who'd worked double shifts to pay for Tessa's real estate license. Same fool who'd believed her when she said those late nights were about building our future. The front door opened downstairs. Tessa's heels clicked across the hardwood floor like a countdown timer. Red? You awake, honey? Honey. The word hit me like a slap. I slipped the burner phone into my pocket and walked downstairs, forcing my face into neutral. Tessa stood in the hallway, still gorgeous at 39, her blonde hair perfect despite the late hour. She wore the black dress I'd complimented that morning, the one I'd said made her look like a movie star. Now I knew it had been Brady's audition. Hey there, beautiful, I said, amazed at how normal my voice sounded. How was the showing? She smiled, that practiced real estate smile. Long night. The Hendersons are so picky. We looked at 7 properties. She kissed my cheek, and I caught a whiff of cologne that definitely wasn't mine. You should get some sleep. You look tired. Yeah, I am pretty beat. I watched her face carefully. Funny thing, though, I drove past the Henderson place around 10, all dark. Figured the showing got canceled. For just a split second, her smile flickered. Then it blazed back to life. Oh, we ended up at the waterfront properties instead. Better views, you know how it is. The lie rolled off her tongue, smooth as silk. 15 years of marriage, and I was just now seeing how good she was at this. Well, I'm glad you're building that client base, I said. Brady must be thrilled with your dedication. Her cheeks flushed slightly. Brady's a great boss. He really believes in me. I'll bet he does, I thought. Out loud I said, I'm lucky to have such a hard-working wife. She squeezed my arm. We're a team, Red. Always have been. After she went upstairs, I sat in my workshop behind the house, surrounded by boat engines and the smell of WD-40. The burner phone felt like it weighed 1,000 pounds in my pocket. I pulled it out and scrolled through more messages, each one twisting the knife deeper. Red tried to be romantic tonight, candles and everything. I had to fake it so hard I deserved an Oscar. Thank God I have you to remind me what real passion feels like. He keeps talking about taking a vacation to Myrtle Beach. Can you imagine? I told him we can't afford it. Good thing he doesn't know about our weekend in Charleston. Sometimes I wonder if he suspects anything. He's not smart enough, though. Poor little Red, living in his own world. That last one made me laugh out loud, a bitter sound in the quiet workshop. Not smart enough? We'd see about that. I'd built my life on solving problems. When a ship's engine wouldn't start, I didn't just bang on it with a wrench. I diagnosed the issue, traced it back to its source, and fixed it properly. This situation was just another engine that needed work. Over the next 3 days, I played the perfect, unsuspecting husband while I gathered intelligence. I installed a GPS tracker on Tessa's car, easy enough when you know your way around electronics. I set up a camera in our bedroom, hidden in the smoke detector. I started paying attention to her schedule, her moods, her lies. The picture that emerged made me sick. This wasn't some recent fling. Based on the message history, Tessa and Brady had been carrying on for over 2 years. They'd been to hotels in 3 different cities. He'd bought her jewelry I'd never seen. She'd told him things about our marriage, our finances, our most private moments that she had no right to share. But the thing that really got to me was the contempt. It wasn't just that she didn't love me anymore. She actively despised me. In her messages to Brady, I wasn't a person with feelings. I was an obstacle, a joke, a pathetic little man who stood between her and her real life. "Red's so proud of that stupid boat he's fixing up," she'd written. "He keeps talking about taking me fishing. As if I'd want to spend a weekend smelling like bait with Captain Loser." I told him I get seasick. That boat was my pride and joy, a 1987 Grady White I'd been restoring for 3 years. I'd planned to surprise her with a romantic weekend cruise for our anniversary. The fact that she'd rather mock it than tell me honestly that she wasn't interested felt like a betrayal all by itself. On Thursday night, I followed them to Brady's condo downtown. It was one of those glass towers that had sprouted up when the town tried to reinvent itself as a tourist destination. I parked across the street and watched them through the floor-to-ceiling windows, silhouetted against the light like actors on a stage. Brady was everything I wasn't, tall, polished, with the kind of easy confidence that came from never having to worry about money. He wore suits that probably cost more than I made in a month. His hands were soft and manicured, not scarred and calloused like mine. I watched him pour wine while Tessa laughed at something he said. She looked relaxed in a way I hadn't seen in years, happy, alive. When he kissed her, she melted into him like she was coming home. That's when I knew this wasn't just about sex or excitement. She loved him, really loved him. Which meant she'd been living a lie with me for God knows how long, just going through the motions while her heart belonged to someone else. I drove home in a daze, my mind spinning with rage and hurt and something darker, something that felt like the beginning of a plan. Friday morning arrived gray and drizzly, matching my mood perfectly. Tessa hummed while she made coffee, actually hummed like she was starring in her own personal romantic comedy. She wore a new blouse I'd never seen before, silk, expensive looking, the kind of thing Brady probably picked out. "You seem happy today," I said, testing the waters. "It's just a beautiful morning," she replied, not meeting my eyes. "I love this time of year." It was November in coastal Carolina. The air was cold, the sky was the color of old dishwater, and the wind off the harbor could strip paint. If this qualified as beautiful, she was definitely living in a different reality than me. "Any showings today?" I asked. "A few. Brady's got me working with some high-end clients." She said his name like it was made of honey. Big commission potential. "I'll bet," I thought. Out loud, I said, "That's great, babe. You deserve success." She finally looked at me then, and for a moment I saw something that might have been guilt flicker across her face. Then it was gone. "Red, I know I've been working a lot lately. I hope you don't feel neglected." The concern in her voice sounded genuine, which somehow made it worse. She could feel guilty about the time, but not about the betrayal itself. "I'm proud of you," I said. "We're building something together." Another lie to add to the collection. We weren't building anything together. She was tearing down everything we'd built while I wasn't looking. After she left, I called in sick to work and drove to Pete's auto repair. Pete Kowalski had been my best friend since high school, a bear of a man with grease permanently embedded under his fingernails and opinions about everything. His shop was the kind of place where men went to solve the world's problems over beer and carburetor parts. "You look like hell," Pete said when I walked in. He was elbow deep in the engine of a Ford pickup, but he could read faces better than most people read books. "I need to talk to someone," I said. Pete wiped his hands on a rag and grabbed 2 beers from the mini fridge in his office. "Talk." I told him everything. The phone, the messages, the surveillance, the whole sordid story. Pete listened without interrupting, his face getting darker with each detail. "That cheating witch," he said when I finished. "And Brady Lawes, that slick piece of garbage. I always knew there was something wrong with that guy." "You know him?" "Know of him. He's got a reputation around town. Thinks he's God's gift because he drives a BMW and wears fancy suits. Word is his real estate company's in trouble, though. Lots of debt, lots of enemies." This was news to me. "What kind of trouble?" "Gambling, mostly. My cousin works at the marina. Says Brady owes money to some serious people. The kind who don't accept payment plans. I filed this information away for later use. The thing is, Pete, I don't know what to do. Part of me wants to confront them, but another part of me wants to make them pay." Pete studied me carefully. "What do you mean, make them pay?" "I mean really pay. Not just a divorce and splitting assets. I want them to hurt the way they've hurt me. I want them to know what it feels like to have their whole world turned upside down." "Red, you're talking about revenge. That's a dangerous road." "Maybe. But sitting back and taking it like a good little victim feels worse." Pete was quiet for a long moment. Then he said, "If you're serious about this, you need to be smart. Don't do anything stupid that'll land you in jail or give them ammunition in a divorce. I'm not talking about anything illegal, just creative justice." "What did you have in mind?" "I'd been thinking about this all morning. Information is power, right? They've been keeping secrets. What if those secrets stopped being secret?" Pete grinned, and it wasn't a nice expression. "Now you're talking my language." We spent the next hour planning. Pete had connections all over town, mechanics, bartenders, shop owners, the kind of people who saw everything and remembered it all. If Brady and Tessa thought they were being discreet, they were about to learn how small a small town really was. That evening, I put the first phase of my plan into action. While Tessa was at another late showing, I used her laptop to access her email account. I'd watched her type the password a dozen times, our wedding anniversary, which felt like a cruel joke now. Her inbox was a gold mine of evidence. Hotel reservations, restaurant confirmations, even a few photos I wished I could unsee. But the real treasure was in her sent folder. Emails to her sister, her friends, her mother, all painting me as a boring, unsuccessful husband who was holding her back from her true potential. "Red's sweet, but he has no ambition," she'd written to her college roommate. "He's content to fix boat motors for the rest of his life while I'm trying to build something real. Brady understands my dreams." To her sister, "I know you think I should leave Red, but it's complicated. He depends on me so much. I feel sorry for him sometimes." To her mother, "Red's been distant lately. I think he suspects I'm not happy, but he won't talk about it. He just buries himself in his work and pretends everything's fine." The hypocrisy was staggering. She was painting herself as the victim in our marriage while carrying on an affair that had been going on for years. Worse, she was setting up a narrative that would make me look like the bad guy when everything came out. I forwarded the most damaging emails to myself, then deleted the evidence of my snooping. If Tessa wanted to play games with information, I'd show her what a real player looked like. The next morning, I started making calls. First to Sheriff Lane, an old friend who'd grown up in the same neighborhood. Then to my lawyer, Jim Morrison, Not the rock star, just a guy who'd helped me with the house purchase and knew his way around family law. Finally, to a private investigator Pete had recommended, a former cop named Sarah Chen, who specialized in adultery cases. I need documentation, I told Sarah over coffee at the diner downtown. Photos, witnesses, a timeline. Everything admissible in court. Sarah was a small, serious woman with sharp eyes and a no-nonsense attitude. Adultery's not grounds for divorce in this state anymore, but it can affect property division and alimony. How much are we talking about? I ran through our assets, the house, my retirement account, Tessa's business, the boat. Not a fortune, but enough to fight over. The thing is, I said, I don't just want to win the divorce. I want to destroy their credibility. Both of them. Sarah raised an eyebrow. That sounds personal. It is personal. They've been making a fool of me for 2 years, laughing at me, mocking me, treating me like I'm too stupid to notice. I want them to pay for that. Revenge can be expensive and dangerous. I'm not talking about anything illegal, just making sure the truth comes out in the most public, embarrassing way possible. Sarah smiled for the first time since we'd met. Now that I can help with. Over the weekend, I played the perfect husband while Sarah's team documented everything. They got photos of Brady and Tessa entering his condo together. They recorded them at romantic dinners. They even got audio of them mocking me in the restaurant parking lot after what was supposed to be Tessa's client dinner. But the real breakthrough came on Monday, when Pete's cousin at the marina overheard Brady on the phone with someone who sounded very unhappy about money Brady owed. 50 grand by Friday, or we start getting creative about collection methods, the voice had said, according to Pete's cousin. Brady was sweating bullets, Pete told me. Kept looking around like he expected someone to jump out of the bushes. This gave me an idea. If Brady was in financial trouble, that explained why he was suddenly so interested in Tessa. Her real estate business was doing well, and she had access to our joint accounts. Maybe this wasn't just about love after all. I spent Tuesday digging into Brady's finances. It wasn't hard. Public records, court filings, business licenses. The picture that emerged was of a man living way beyond his means, borrowing money from dangerous people to maintain an image of success. His real estate company was 3 months behind on rent. His BMW was leased, not owned. Even the fancy condo was a rental, not a purchase. Brady Lawes was a house of cards waiting for a strong wind. Wednesday night, I followed them to dinner at the most expensive restaurant in town. They sat at a corner table holding hands and gazing into each other's eyes like teenagers. I watched from the bar, nursing a beer and listening to their conversation through the wireless microphone Sarah had planted in Tessa's purse. I can't keep lying to him, Tessa was saying. It's eating me alive. Just a little longer, baby, Brady replied. I'm working on something big. Once it comes through, we can be together openly. What kind of something? Brady glanced around nervously. Better you don't know the details, but it involves your husband's company. My blood went cold. Whatever Brady was planning, it involved coastal Carolina shipbuilding. That was my livelihood, my co-workers' livelihoods. This wasn't just personal anymore. I left the restaurant and drove straight to Sarah's office. She was working late, reviewing surveillance photos. We need to move faster, I told her. Brady's planning something that could hurt my company. What kind of something? I don't know yet, but I'm going to find out. Sarah leaned back in her chair. Red, I have to ask, how far are you willing to take this? I thought about my coworkers, good men with families who depended on their jobs. I thought about the years of humiliation, the mockery, the lies. I thought about Tessa in Brady's arms, laughing at my expense. As far as it takes, I said. Thursday morning brought the first real test of my plan. I'd spent the night awake, staring at the ceiling while Tessa slept peacefully beside me, probably dreaming about her future with Brady. The irony wasn't lost on me. She was worried about lying to me while literally lying next to me. At breakfast, she seemed nervous, distracted. She kept checking her phone and jumping at every sound. "Everything okay?" I asked, buttering my toast with deliberate calm. "Fine, just a busy day ahead." She avoided my eyes. "Brady's got some big announcement at the office meeting this morning." My stomach tightened. What kind of announcement? "I don't know. He's been mysterious about it all week." She finally looked at me, and I saw something that might have been fear. "Red, if something changes with my job, we'll figure it out together, right?" The concern in her voice almost broke my heart. For a moment, she sounded like the woman I'd married, the one who used to worry about our future together instead of planning one without me. "Of course," I said. "We're a team." She smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. After she left, I called in sick again and drove to the office building where Brady's real estate company was located. Sarah was already there, parked across the street with a telephoto lens. "Something's got them spooked," she reported. "Brady's been on the phone all morning and he doesn't look happy." Through the camera, I could see into the conference room where Brady was addressing his staff. Tessa sat in the front row, her face pale. Brady's usual smooth confidence was nowhere to be seen. He looked like a man delivering bad news. My phone buzzed with a text from Pete. "You need to get to the shipyard. Now." I drove to Coastal Carolina Shipbuilding with a growing sense of dread. Pete was waiting for me in the parking lot, his face grim. "Brady was here an hour ago," he said. "Had a meeting with management about some kind of development deal. Word is he's trying to buy the land out from under the company." The pieces clicked into place. Brady needed money fast, and he'd found a way to get it by destroying my workplace. If he could force the shipyard to sell, he'd get a commission on the deal and solve his debt problem in one move. "There's more," Pete said. "I talked to Jimmy in accounting. Brady's been asking questions about employee records, payroll, who's close to retirement. He's doing homework. This was war now. Brady wasn't content to steal my wife. He wanted to take my livelihood too. But he'd made one crucial mistake. He was playing in my backyard now, and I knew every player in the game. I spent the rest of the morning making calls. Sheriff Lane confirmed that Brady had been asking questions about zoning laws and environmental regulations. My lawyer, Jim Morrison, revealed that Brady had been researching property values and development rights. Even the harbor master mentioned that Brady had been asking about water access and shipping rights. Brady was planning to turn our working shipyard into luxury condos. He'd destroy 100 jobs and a century of maritime tradition to make a quick profit. The man wasn't just a cheater, he was a parasite. That afternoon, I put the second phase of my plan into motion. I started with Tessa's friends. Jennifer Walsh had been Tessa's best friend since college. They had lunch every Tuesday and shared everything, or so Jennifer thought. I called her at work and asked if we could meet for coffee. "Red? Is everything okay?" Jennifer sounded surprised. We'd never had a one-on-one conversation in all the years I'd known her. "I need to talk to someone about Tessa," I said. "I'm worried about her." We met at a coffee shop downtown. Jennifer was a sweet woman, loyal to a fault, the kind of person who believed the best about everyone. She was about to get an education in reality. "Tessa's been different lately," I began. "Distant. Working late all the time. I'm starting to wonder if there's something she's not telling me." Jennifer's face went through several expressions: surprise, concern, and something that looked like guilt. "Red, I don't know what to say." "You know something." It wasn't a question. Jennifer stared into her coffee cup. "I've been wondering when you'd notice." "Notice what?" "The new clothes. The jewelry. The way she lights up when she talks about work." Jennifer looked up at me with sad eyes. "I asked her about it once. She said you two were going through a rough patch, but she was handling it." I pulled out my phone and showed her one of the photos Sarah had taken. Tessa and Brady kissing in the restaurant parking lot. Jennifer gasped. "Oh my God. Red, I had no idea it was this serious." 2 years, I said. It's been going on for 2 years. Jennifer started crying. I should have said something. I should have warned you. It's not your fault. But I need you to know what kind of person you've been defending. I showed her the screenshots of Tessa's emails, the ones where she mocked our marriage and called me pathetic. Jennifer's tears turned to anger. This isn't the Tessa I know, she said. This is cruel. This is who she really is. The question is, what are you going to do about it? Jennifer wiped her eyes and straightened up. What do you need me to do? By evening, I'd had similar conversations with 3 more of Tessa's friends. Each one had suspected something was wrong, but none had wanted to get involved. Now they knew the truth, and they were angry. Not just at Tessa, but at themselves for enabling her. The next morning, Tessa's phone started ringing early. Jennifer was the first to call, then Susan, then Marie. I listened from the kitchen as Tessa tried to explain, to minimize, to make excuses. It's not what it looks like, she kept saying. Red's been distant for years. You don't understand what it's like. But her friends weren't buying it anymore. They'd seen the evidence, heard the mockery in her own words. The support network she'd counted on was crumbling. After the 4th call, Tessa came downstairs looking shaken. My friends are acting weird, she said. They're asking strange questions about us, about my work. I looked up from my newspaper with practiced concern. What kind of questions? About whether I'm happy. Whether I'm being honest with them. She sat down across from me, her hands trembling slightly. Red? Have you been talking to them? Why would I talk to your friends? I don't know. It's just... The timing is strange. I reached across the table and took her hand. It felt cold, fragile. Tessa, if something's wrong, you can tell me. We can work through anything. For a moment, I thought she might confess. Her eyes filled with tears, and she squeezed my hand. I love you, she said, and I almost believed her. I love you too, I replied, and meant it despite everything. That afternoon, while Tessa was at work, I met with Sheriff Lane at his office. We'd grown up 3 blocks apart, played football together in high school, stood up at each other's weddings. If anyone would understand what I was going through, it was him. I heard about your situation, he said, after I'd laid out the evidence. I'm sorry, Red. This has got to be hell. It is, but that's not why I'm here. I told him about Brady's plan for the shipyard, the financial pressure he was under, the timeline that seemed to coincide with his promises to Tessa about their future together. You think he's planning something illegal? Lane asked. I think he's desperate. And desperate men do stupid things. Lane nodded. I'll keep an eye on him. But Red, you need to be careful too. Don't do anything that'll make me have to arrest you. I'm not planning to break any laws, but I am planning to make sure the truth comes out. Sometimes the truth can be its own kind of weapon. That's what I'm counting on. That evening, Tessa came home early looking defeated. She'd barely spoken to me when her phone rang. It was her sister calling from Atlanta. I only heard Tessa's side of the conversation, but it was enough. No, Linda, that's not true. I don't know who told you that. It's complicated. You don't understand the situation. When she hung up, she was crying. My sister thinks I'm having an affair, she said. I put my arm around her, hating myself for the comfort I was providing. Why would she think that? Someone sent her photos of me and Brady. She looked up at me with desperate eyes. Red, I can explain. This was it, the moment of truth. I could let her confess, accept her apology, try to rebuild. Or I could stick to my plan and watch her world burn. I thought about the messages mocking me, about Brady's plan for the shipyard, about 2 years of lies and betrayal. Explain what? I said gently. She stared at me, realizing I was giving her a chance to come clean. For a moment, I saw the woman I'd married, the one who used to tell me everything. Then the moment passed, and the mask slipped back into place. "Never mind," she said. "Linda's always been dramatic. It's probably just gossip." She'd chosen to keep lying. Even when caught, even when given a chance to salvage something, she chose Brady over truth. I kissed the top of her head. "Don't worry about it. People talk. It doesn't mean anything." But it meant everything. She'd had her chance, and she'd blown it. The war was about to begin in earnest. Saturday morning arrived with the kind of crisp November air that made everything seem sharper, more defined. I was in my workshop, pretending to tune up an outboard motor while actually planning my next move, when Pete showed up with news that changed everything. "You're not going to believe this," he said, holding up his phone. "Brady's in deeper trouble than we thought." The screen showed a photo from the marina, Brady's BMW with 2 flat tires and a message spray-painted on the windshield. "Pay up or else." "Happened sometime last night," Pete continued. "My cousin says Brady was there this morning panicking, made some calls, then drove off on the rims rather than wait for a tow truck. This was escalating beyond anything I'd planned. If Brady's creditors were getting violent, it put Tessa in potential danger too. Whatever else she'd done, I didn't want her hurt." "There's more," Pete said. "I did some asking around. Turns out Brady owes money to Tommy Marconi's crew. I knew that name. Everyone in town did. Tommy ran a legitimate construction business, but everyone knew his real money came from less legal ventures. If Brady owed Tommy money, he was in serious trouble." "How much are we talking about?" $80 grand plus interest. Word is Brady borrowed it to cover some bad real estate investments. Figured he'd pay it back when his big development deal came through. The shipyard deal. Brady was betting everything on destroying my workplace to save his own skin. My phone buzzed with a text from Sarah. "Emergency. Meet me at the office now." I found Sarah pacing her office like a caged animal, surveillance photos spread across her desk. "We have a problem," she said. "Brady knows he's being watched." She showed me a photo from that morning, Brady pointing directly at the camera, his face twisted with rage. He spotted our guy at the marina. Made a scene, threatened to call the police. Did he recognize the photographer? No, but he knows someone's documenting his activities. He's going to be more careful now, maybe change his patterns. This could ruin everything. If Brady went underground, I'd lose my advantage. "There's something else," Sarah continued. "I've been monitoring his phone calls. He's planning something for Monday morning, something involving your wife and a lot of money." My blood went cold. "What kind of something?" "I couldn't get details, but he mentioned your joint bank account and something about securing their future. Tessa had access to our savings, about $40,000 we'd been putting away for retirement. If she was planning to run off with Brady, she might clean out the account first." "I need to confront them," I said. "Tonight." "Red, that's not smart. If you tip your hand now, if I wait, they might disappear with my money and leave me with nothing." Sarah studied my face. "You're not just talking about money, are you?" She was right. This had gone beyond financial concerns or even revenge. I needed to look Tessa in the eye and make her admit what she'd done. I needed her to face the consequences of her choices. "Where are they tonight?" Sarah checked her notes. "Brady's condo. They've been there every Saturday for the past month." "Then that's where I'm going." I drove to Brady's building as the sun was setting, painting the glass tower gold and red. The parking garage was mostly empty. Weekends were quiet in the business district. I found Tessa's car on the 3rd level, parked next to Brady's damaged BMW. The elevator ride to the 15th floor felt like ascending to my own execution. My hands shook as I pressed the button, my heart hammered against my ribs. Part of me hoped they wouldn't answer, that I could walk away and pretend this wasn't happening. But when Brady opened the door, wearing nothing but a silk robe, that hope died. "What the hell are you doing here?" he demanded. I pushed past him into the apartment. The living room was a shrine to expensive taste. Leather furniture, abstract art, a view of the harbor that probably cost more per month than I made. Tessa sat on the couch in one of Brady's shirts, her face white with shock. "Red," she whispered. "I can explain." "Can you?" I turned to face them both. "Can you explain 2 years of lies? Can you explain the messages calling me a loser? Can you explain planning to steal my money?" Brady stepped between us, trying to look intimidating despite the ridiculous robe. "You need to leave now." "Or what? You'll call the police? Tell them I caught my wife cheating?" "Red, please!" Tessa stood up, her eyes filled with tears. "Let me explain." "I'm listening." She looked at Brady, then back at me, her mouth opening and closing like a fish out of water. "It's not what you think," she finally said. "It's exactly what I think. You've been screwing him for 2 years while pretending to love me. You've been mocking our marriage, our life, everything we built together. And now you're planning to run off with our savings." "That's not," she started, but Brady cut her off. "Yeah, it is," he said, his voice cold. "We're leaving, Red. Tomorrow morning. Tessa deserves better than a small-town loser who'll never amount to anything." The casual cruelty in his voice hit me like a physical blow. This was how they really saw me, not as a person with feelings, but as an obstacle to their happiness. "And the shipyard?" I asked. "Destroying 100 jobs so you can pay off your gambling debts?" Brady's face went pale. "How did you—" "I know about Tommy Marconi. I know about the $80,000. I know about your plan to turn the shipyard into condos." I stepped closer to him. "What I don't know is how you sleep at night." "Business is business," Brady said, but his voice lacked conviction. "Whose business? You're 3 months behind on rent for your office. Your car's leased, your condo's rented, and you owe money to people who break legs for a living. You're not a successful businessman. You're a con man who's run out of marks." Tessa was staring at Brady with growing horror. "Is that true?" "Tessa, don't listen to him. Is it true?" she demanded. Brady's silence was answer enough. I pulled out my phone and showed her the photos Sarah had taken. Brady meeting with Tommy's associates, the threats spray-painted on his car, the documents showing his company's debts. "He's been using you," I said gently. "The whole relationship, it was about getting access to our money, our stability. You think he loves you, but you're just his escape plan." Tessa sank back onto the couch, her face crumpling. "Oh, God. What have I done?" "You destroyed our marriage for a man who was planning to abandon you the moment his debts caught up with him," I said. "That's what you've done." Brady tried one last desperate play. "Red, we can work this out, man to man. I'll give you a clean divorce, no contest. You can keep the house, the boat, whatever you want." "What I want," I said slowly, "is for you to face the consequences of what you've done." I pulled out my phone and made a call. "Sheriff Lane? It's Red. I'm at Brady Lawes' condo, and I think you need to get down here. I have evidence of fraud, embezzlement, and conspiracy." Brady lunged for the phone, but I was ready for him. 20 years of physical labor had kept me strong, and Brady's soft lifestyle showed. I grabbed his wrist and twisted, sending him to his knees. "Don't," I said quietly. "You've done enough damage." Tessa was sobbing now, the full weight of her choices finally hitting her. "Red, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I know you are. But sorry doesn't fix this." Sheriff Lane arrived with 2 deputies 15 minutes later. By then, I'd laid out everything: the affair, the financial fraud, the plan to destroy the shipyard. Sarah's evidence was comprehensive and damning. As they led Brady away in handcuffs, he turned to Tessa one last time. "This is your fault," he snarled. "If you'd been smarter about it, we could have been free." Even facing arrest, he couldn't take responsibility for his own actions. Tessa just stared at him like she was seeing him clearly for the first time. After the police left, Tessa and I sat in Brady's expensive living room, surrounded by the wreckage of her fantasy life. I loved you, she said quietly. I really did love you. Past tense? She was quiet for a long moment. I don't know. I don't know anything anymore. You know what you chose. For 2 years, you chose him over me. You chose lies over truth. You chose to mock everything we built together. I was unhappy, Red. I felt trapped, like my life was over at 39. Brady made me feel alive again. So, you decided to make me feel dead instead. She flinched at that, but didn't deny it. What happens now? She asked. I stood up and walked to the window, looking out at the harbor lights. My town, my home, the place where I'd built my life. Brady had tried to destroy it, and Tessa had helped him. Now you live with what you've done, I said, and I live with what I have to do about it. Monday morning came with the kind of clarity that only follows a storm. I woke up alone. Tessa had spent the night at her sister's house, calling in sick to work. Brady was in jail, his bail set high enough to keep him there for a while. The immediate crisis was over, but the real work was just beginning. I made coffee and sat in my kitchen, looking at the stack of legal papers Jim Morrison had prepared. Divorce proceedings, asset protection, restraining orders, all the machinery of ending a marriage. But paperwork felt inadequate for what I needed to accomplish. My phone rang. Sarah Chen calling with her final report. Brady's been charged with fraud, conspiracy, and attempted extortion, she said. The DA thinks they can make it stick. He's looking at 5 to 10 years. And the shipyard? Safe. Without Brady's backing, the development deal fell through. Your job's secure. That was something at least. 100 families wouldn't lose their livelihoods because of one man's greed. There's something else, Sarah continued. I've been digging into Brady's finances. Turns out he's been running this scam for years, targeting married women with access to money, seducing them, then disappearing with whatever he could steal. My stomach turned. How many others? At least 3 I can document, maybe more. Tessa wasn't his first victim. Victim. The word sat strangely in my mind. Tessa had made choices, terrible choices that had devastated our marriage. But she'd also been manipulated by a professional con man who'd studied her weaknesses and exploited them. Does she know? I think she should. It might help her understand what really happened. After hanging up, I drove to Tessa's sister's house across town. Linda answered the door with a face like thunder. She doesn't want to see you, Linda said. I need 5 minutes. It's important. Linda studied my face, then reluctantly stepped aside. 5 minutes, then you leave her alone. I found Tessa in the guest bedroom, still in yesterday's clothes, her eyes red from crying. She looked up when I entered, and I saw something I hadn't seen in years. Fear. Are you here to gloat? She asked. I'm here to tell you the truth. I sat down across from her and explained what Sarah had discovered. Brady's pattern, his other victims, the calculated way he'd targeted her. With each detail, Tessa's face grew paler. He studied me, she said when I finished. Everything he said, everything he did, it was all planned. Yes. The things he said about you, about our marriage, he was feeding my dissatisfaction, making it worse. Yes. She was quiet for a long time, processing the full scope of her betrayal, not just of me, but of herself. I still made the choice, she said finally. He might have manipulated me, but I chose to lie to you. I chose to mock our marriage. I chose to plan a future without you. It was the first completely honest thing she'd said to me in years. Yes, you did. Can you ever forgive me? I'd been dreading this question because I didn't know the answer. Part of me still loved her, still remembered the woman I'd married. But another part of me could never forget the cruelty in those messages, the casual way she'd dismissed our life together. I don't know, I said. Maybe someday, but not today. She nodded, tears streaming down her face. I understand. There's something else. I'm not going to make this divorce ugly. You can keep your half of everything, Start over somewhere else if you want. But I need you to understand something. What? This town is my home. These people are my family. You've lost the right to be part of that. It was harsh, but fair. Tessa had burned her bridges here, and I wasn't going to help her rebuild them. I know, she said quietly. I'll leave. Start somewhere fresh. That's probably best. I stood to go, then turned back one last time. For what it's worth, I did love you. All of you, even the parts that drove me crazy. I would have done anything to make you happy. I know, she whispered. That's what makes this so much worse. The next few weeks passed in a blur of legal meetings and paperwork. Tessa moved out, taking only her personal belongings and leaving everything else behind. She'd found a job with a real estate company in Charlotte, 3 hours away, far enough to start over, close enough to handle the divorce proceedings. Brady's trial was set for the following spring. The evidence against him was overwhelming, and his lawyer was already talking about a plea bargain. Tommy Marconi's crew had written off Brady's debt as uncollectible, which probably saved his life, if not his freedom. But the real reckoning came on a Friday evening in December, when I found myself at Pete's bar with half the town. Word had gotten out about what happened. Small towns don't keep secrets long, and the reaction had been swift and decisive. You did the right thing, said Jimmy from the shipyard. That bastard would have put us all out of work. Tessa always thought she was too good for this place, added Mary from the diner. Guess she found out different. The support felt good, but it also felt incomplete. I'd exposed Brady's crimes and ended my marriage, but I hadn't achieved what I'd really wanted, true justice for the years of humiliation and betrayal. That's when Sheriff Lane sat down next to me with news that changed everything. Brady's lawyer called, he said. Wants to make a deal. Full confession, testimony against his other victims' cases, in exchange for a lighter sentence. What kind of lighter sentence? 3 years instead of 10. He'd be out in 18 months with good behavior. The injustice of it hit me like a punch to the gut. Brady would serve less than 2 years for destroying multiple marriages and nearly ruining 100 families. Meanwhile, I'd be dealing with the wreckage of my life for years to come. There's more, Lane continued. Part of the deal involves restitution. Brady's got some assets hidden away, offshore accounts, investments under fake names. The DA wants to recover that money for his victims. How much are we talking about? Maybe 200,000 total, split between you and the other families he scammed. It was more money than I'd see in 5 years of working at the shipyard. Blood money, but money nonetheless. What do you think I should do? Lane sipped his beer thoughtfully. I think you should consider what you really want out of this. Justice? Revenge? Or just the chance to move on with your life? That night, I walked down to the harbor and sat on the dock where I'd spent countless hours as a kid, dreaming about my future. The water was black under the winter sky, but the lights from the town reflected on its surface like fallen stars. I thought about Tessa, starting over in Charlotte, with the weight of her choices following her everywhere. I thought about Brady, facing years in prison and a lifetime of knowing he'd destroyed everything for nothing. I thought about myself, free but alone, vindicated but empty. The truth was, I'd already won. Brady's plan had failed, my job was secure, and everyone in town knew exactly what kind of man he was and what kind of woman Tessa had become. They'd both lost everything that mattered: reputation, respect, the chance for genuine happiness. But I'd lost something too. The ability to trust completely, to love without reservation, to believe that the person sleeping next to me was really on my side. That innocence was gone forever, and no amount of revenge could bring it back. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. For a moment I thought it might be Tessa, reaching out one last time. Instead, it was from Jennifer, Tessa's former best friend. Heard about the restitution offer. Whatever you decide, know that you handled this with more class than most men would have. This town is lucky to have you." I smiled for the first time in weeks. Maybe I had lost something, but I'd gained something too. The knowledge that I could face the worst betrayal imaginable and come through it with my integrity intact. I'd been tested in ways I'd never imagined, and I'd passed. The next morning, I called the DA's office and accepted Brady's plea deal. Not because I forgave him, but because I was ready to stop letting his actions control my life. The money would help, but more importantly, his confession would give closure to his other victims. 3 months later, I was back in my workshop, putting the finishing touches on the Grady White I'd been restoring. The boat that Tessa had mocked, that I'd planned to surprise her with, was finally ready for the water. I'd renamed it Second Chance, not because I believed in do-overs, but because I believed in making the best of what you had left. Pete knocked on the workshop door as I was applying the final coat of varnish to the deck. "Looks good," he said, admiring my work. "You taking her out this weekend?" "Thinking about it." "Want to come along?" "Wouldn't miss it." As we loaded the boat onto the trailer, Pete asked the question I'd been expecting. "Any regrets?" I thought about it seriously. Did I regret the surveillance, the confrontation, the public humiliation of two people I'd once cared about? Did I regret choosing justice over forgiveness, truth over peace? "No," I said finally. "They made their choices, and I made mine. I can live with the consequences." "What about Tessa? You ever think about what might have happened if you'd handled it differently?" I did think about it sometimes. What if I'd confronted her privately, given her a chance to end the affair and rebuild our marriage? What if I'd been willing to forgive and forget? But then I remembered the cruelty in those messages, the years of lies, the casual way she'd dismissed our life together. Some betrayals were too deep for forgiveness, some wounds too severe for healing. "She had her chance," I said. "Multiple chances. She chose Brady every time." We launched the boat at sunrise, the harbor calm and silver in the early morning light. As we cleared the breakwater and headed for open ocean, I felt something I hadn't experienced in months: peace. Behind us, the town was waking up. People were starting their days, going to jobs that still existed because I'd stopped Brady's scheme. Families were having breakfast together, secure in their routines, because one man's greed had been exposed and punished. Ahead of us lay the open sea, vast and unpredictable, but honest in its dangers. No hidden agendas, no secret betrayals, just the eternal challenge of wind and wave against human skill and determination. I'd survived the worst storm of my life, and I was still standing, battered, scarred, but unbroken, ready for whatever came next. The sun climbed higher, burning off the morning mist and revealing a day full of possibilities. In the distance, dolphins played in the boat's wake, and for the first time in years, I allowed myself to hope. Not for reconciliation or forgiveness, but for something simpler and more precious: the chance to build a new life on the solid foundation of truth, integrity, and hard-won wisdom. I'd been Red Baker the victim, Red Baker the investigator, Red Baker the avenging husband. Now I was ready to be something new: Red Baker the survivor, the man who'd faced his demons and won. As we headed toward the horizon, I thought about the message I'd send to anyone who might try to destroy my life again. I'm stronger than you think, smarter than you assume, and more dangerous than you can imagine when cornered. But I also thought about the message I'd send to anyone looking for a second chance, a fresh start, an honest relationship built on mutual respect. I'm here, I'm ready, and I've learned the difference between love and lies. The boat cut through the swells with smooth precision, carrying me toward whatever came next. Behind me, the past receded into memory. Ahead, the future waited with infinite possibility. I'd won the war, not through violence or cruelty, but through patience, intelligence, and an unwavering commitment to truth. Brady would spend years in prison, his reputation destroyed, his schemes exposed. Tessa would spend years rebuilding her life, carrying the weight of her choices wherever she went. And I would spend my years doing what I'd always done, working with my hands, solving problems, building things that lasted. The difference was that now I knew exactly what I was capable of when pushed to the limit. I was Red Baker, and I'd survived the storm.